going to want to put jack stands when you jack it up underneath, just for safety in case the jack lets out. So put them on both sides.
Hello, my name's Ed Frawley. I'm not a professional fisherman. What I do for a living and have since the late 1970s is produce training videos, actually dog training videos. But my bucket list has always been fishing. I grew up, I'm an American citizen, but I grew up in Canada, went to high school in Toronto, and I worked by Hudson Bay for 2 years when I was in high school. I dug telephone post holes 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I fished every night. And on the Sundays, I would go fishing, and it lit the fire in my belly to learn how to fish. So as I got older and started to think about retiring in my dog training business, which is Learberg.com, I got back into fishing. I bought a Lund 18.5-foot Explorer boat in 2012. It has a Shorelander trailer on it, and I'm going to do a series of videos really as much for myself as anybody else. In this video, we're going to talk about how to repack bearings. I have the help of one of my employees. It's our property manager, Sean, who is very capable at mechanical skills. We are going to show you how we took our wheel bearings out of my Shorelander trailer. It's a 3,000-pound trailer, and took them out, inspected them, replace the seals. We're going to tell you what you need before you start, and I highly recommend that you check your owner's manual and call the manufacturer of your trailer, be it Shorelander or some other, and ask them for bearing seals and bearings and have them on hand before you start this process. It'll make everything go quicker. Had we not done that, we could have been stuck for 2 or 3 or more days waiting for parts to come. Once we had the wheel bearings all out of the trailer, it would have stopped us from fishing for that period of time. So it makes sense to get prepared ahead of time. We'll talk about how we do it. You might be able to find more professional tools than what we have to make the process go quicker. So be it if you do. But we're going to show you what we did, how we do it. Shorelander recommends that you take your seals and repack them every year. I pull my boat a long ways. I go to Canada. I live in Wisconsin. I go out to South Dakota. I also pull my boat down to Arizona because I have a home in Arizona and I spend winters down there. So I pull this boat a lot, thousands and thousands of miles. And the peace of mind in knowing that my wheel bearings are okay never stops feeling good, especially when I drive by a fisherman on the side of the highway with a blown out tire or a tire that's come off his boat. It's a serious thing. I recommend that you watch this, take out of it what you can. It's not a how-to video that anybody should actually say, well, this is the way Ed Frawley says. No, this is what we do here. You take out of it what you want, but in the end, look at your own owner's manual, talk to your own dealer, and talk to the manufacturer and the service department that makes the trailers that you have. I personally don't have a good relationship with the dealer I bought this boat from because I think they were slightly or more incompetent. But I think that's the case in a lot of situations, and maybe I'm a bad guy for saying that, but I've taken this boat in probably 15, 20 times to find rinky-dink things that weren't done correctly. So we made the decision to do it ourselves. I'm gonna rig my boat myself. I'm gonna take care of the trailer myself, because then I know it's being done to a level that I feel comfortable with. So before you even start your little project, what I recommend is you get all the parts ready that you think you might need. In our case, we got, there's 2 seals, or pardon me, 2 bearings on each axle. So we have a set of bearings. The Shorelander trailer that I have has a tapered axle. It's 1 1/16 inches at the front, 1 3/8 inches at the back. We have those on hand before we even start. Just in case the bearings are bad, we don't have to hold up the process and take days to get them if the local parts dealer or your trailer supply people or your boat dealer doesn't have them. So have those on hand. You're going to want new seals. When you may not have to put new bearings in if you look at them, clean them up, see that they're okay, but you're still going to have to pack them and put them back in, so you may not need new bearings. In this job, we didn't need the new bearings, but we have them there anyway. What you will need every time are new seals for each wheel. Each wheel needs its own seal. So make sure you have 2 seals on hand. You're going to need Loctite. You're going to need a tub of marine grade grease to pack your bearings, and you're going to need a grease gun so you can pack your wheels once the bearings are all put back in. In our case, we have to take the calipers off the wheel, and in our case, we had to have a 3/8 inch wrench to take those calipers off. It didn't work with a socket because there wasn't enough room in the socket, so we had to have this wrench. We also have a box of cotter keys because you're going to wreck a cotter key when you take the nut off the axle. So have different cotter keys there so you can replace it and you're not running around looking for another cotter key. You're also going to need a can of brake cleaner because when you take your brake off your boat and your caliper off the brake, you're going to have to, once you've done it all and you're putting it all back together, your hands are greasy, they're going to be touching your brake pads. So you're going to want to clean your brake pads, so you're going to need a can of brake cleaner before you put it all back together.
First of all, I took the tire off, obviously. Second of all, with this boat, you're gonna have to take this caliper off. There's 2 pieces to the caliper here. Usually when you change your brakes, you're gonna have to take it apart, but you're gonna have to pull your whole rotor off. So there's 2 bolts in the back. I take a 3/8 Allen wrench. On this boat trailer, the only way to get to them is with this. Can't do it with a ratchet. There's a top one and a bottom one. I'll take them off. That's what I took out. Bottom one's a little tougher to get to. You're gonna have to get down and take it out so you can see it. And lay your caliper down. Check your brakes as long as you got it off. Make sure they're good. These ones are good. You can see there's a lot of brake pad left. And you'll want to take your cap off the front. It'll probably be full of grease, so you're going to want to start wiping it off because there's a snap ring right in front. Then you can go onto the hub. And then there's a snap ring that you're gonna have to take out. You took your snap ring out. Once you took your snap ring out, you have to be careful. Your spring is gonna come out too. Pull your cap out. That's where you put grease in. Then there will be another snap ring in there. Then the next step is to get into the cotter pin. Right here. It goes through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to snip it off because I'm going to use a new one. It's going to be easier. Might be kind of hard to get out. There, once you get your cotter pin out, then you want to take your packing nut out. Then you have a seal on the back that you're gonna have to replace. You're gonna want to keep these separate. This is your front one that came out. That's what comes out the front.
The front?
Yep, that's your front bearing.
Okay.
I'll show you a trick. I'm gonna put the nut back on to pop the seal and the bearing out of the back. So what I did is I put the hub back on, I put the packing nut on, and then I'm just gonna take it, and you'll feel it catch in here. There she came. See how I caught it on the nut? Now this is your rear bearing. You're going to want to keep this separate from the front because like I told you, they were different sizes. This is your seal. This is what you're going to have to get new. Should have numbers on it. If not, they can compare them at the parts store. I'll check that out when I go to clean up more. This is a tapered shaft. As you can see, you're going to have a seal. This is how it kind of lays out. Your seal is going to be on there. Then goes your bigger bearing. That's why it's real critical to make sure you have these separated. And then this is going to be, that's how it sits inside of your hub.
What else goes on there?
And then you'll have a washer. And then before your packing nut will be on there. Then there's a hole for where your cotter pin came out. And that'll be where that came out of. Obviously I cut this one, so you're going to need a new one. Then goes your snap ring will be in your hub. Your cap will go. Then your spring will go. And then your last snap ring. That's how it all goes together inside there. You can see the 3 lines in there. 1, 2, 3. Your first snap ring will go into this line, and your spring. Your second one will go on your outer one.
Is that scarred up?
This is a race in here where your bearing sits. You want to check them, because I'll show you kind of so you know what it does. Remember when I had that seal in the back? And your bearing, see, sits on that race. That's what that runs on. And then your seal is going to sit in the back like that. So you want to check those. There's one in the back. Make sure there ain't, like cuts in them or notches in them for something to wear out your bearing. They want to be nice and smooth.
And if there would be?
Then you'd have to pop them out and put new ones in.
Pop what out?
This collar, this race right here.
Okay.
You'd have to pry that up out of there.
Okay. They come out.
They do come out, but usually you don't have to. Same thing with the front. There's one in the front. Let me get it cleaned out a little bit more.
Okay.
Now you can see that I have that pretty much cleaned out. Right here's your front race.
Yep.
So that's the one you want to be checking. Same thing as your rear race. That's right there. So now you're going to want to check your bearings. Clean them off the best you can. If you have a parts cleaner, it's good to clean them out. What you're going to want to look for is metal shavings a lot. You're going to want to look for kind of, wore out bearings. These look good. You'll feel it. You can see them if they're wore out. You'll see like nicks, or they'll wear out your collar in here. You want to look for, like on this collar where this bearing sits into, this thin collar. Look for cracks in it or anything like that. Look on them. Sometimes they have numbers on them, sometimes they don't. This one don't, that I can see. So
Just take it to the parts store.
take it to the parts store and they'll calibrate the inside and match them up. Sometimes there's numbers that'll be stamped on there. This one does have a stamping on it. If you do need to replace it.
Where is it?
It's up here. Like this one would be, you'd have to give them this number. There's a number up here. You're gonna want to clean your shaft up real good. Look at that for worn out, marks, scratches in it for some odd reason. Reasoning is that your bearing rides on that. You get a nick in it, something on smooth, you're gonna take your bearing out of it. I'm gonna clean everything up, and then I'm gonna clean my bearings, inspect them, and then we'll pack the bearings and put it back together. Now that we have everything clean, you're gonna need some marine grade grease to pack your bearings with. And this is what it should look like after you have it cleaned up. These are all the pieces that we pulled out earlier. Your 2 rings, your filler, your washer, your back bearing is bigger, and your front bearing. You're gonna need your new seal, your spring, and your cotter key. And keep your old seal, that'll come in use in a little bit. Then you're gonna need some Loctite for the bolts that I pulled out first when we first started. This will come in towards the end to fill it up when we get it all together. So first you're gonna take your rear bearing, open up your grease, take a big wad of it, put it in your hand. You can do it this way, or you can use a bearing packer, but I do it this way. What you want to look for is when you're doing it this way, is that it starts coming through the top like that. And you know it's getting inside of it all. And just keep working yourself around. Okay, now that one's packed. Take your grease, because you're going to use it for the front one. Set that aside for a minute until you get your front one. Same thing. See where it's coming through the old? You're going to have a little bit of old, and then see the new, how it's coming through there, through the ring there. Just keep working yourself around. See, now it's all the way around. How came through. Now set that aside. Again, take your extra grease that you have, because you're probably going to have some. If you don't, get some. Put it inside the hub. Kind of clean your hands off. Now you're going to want to take your first bearing that you packed, and there's a littler side and a bigger side. You want to put that in there, littler side first. Now take your new seal that you purchased and put it in, and then tap it a little bit. Try to get it started. This is where I like to use the old bearing that I took out, so I don't beat up the new bearing, or the seal, I'm sorry. Okay, your seal's in place. Now, you're going to want to set your hub. Probably actually flip it over first. Take some more of your new grease and put in there. Now, slide your hub back on. Now you're going to take the other bearing, same way. The little side, your bigger side. It's going to go in first. Now your washer. Now your nut. Now you're not going to want your nut too tight because you want tight but not overly tight. And you're going to have find the hole in there for where your cotter key goes in. So you might have to adjust it one way or another.
You want to put your finger in there and show them. Put your thing in front there. Tell them what you're doing.
I'm bending it because the hub is in so far, so I'm going to have to kind of bend it up in there as I go. That's why I cut it when I took it out at first. Now I have it kind of a hook. I'm going to try that.
Hold it still.
I'll find a hook or something to make sure you got the hole right spot. It's right there. I have a hole. Now I have my pin in there. Gonna want to bend your tabs. And now your nut is secure with your pin. She spins nice. We got to put the snap ring in first. And that goes into that third groove that I talked about in the beginning. And once that is secure, then the cap goes in. Like that. And then your spring goes back in. And this is where it'd probably be nice to have another hand, because it's kind of hard to have put your other snap ring in. Same thing we did before, push that in on the bottom.
Let me hold it where, right there?
Yep. Try not to take your partner's thumb off.
You got a tool for that?
Probably.
There you go.
Now your snap ring's back in.
That's all I gotta do.
Now wipe everything down good. You might want to take a cloth because your hand's been greasy. Take some brake cleaner.
Can you see it? Can you read it?
Because your hands have been greasy.
Hold it still for a second here.
And wipe off where your brake pads go good to get all the grease off in it. So then your pads don't get glazed up when you go to put your caliper back on, both sides. And now we'll put the caliper back on that we took off. Just pushing the brake pads in so they can go around the caliper. So it goes onto the rotor, your pads. And then you're gonna need your bolts that we took out in the beginning. That's where the Loctite comes in. Now you're gonna wanna put your bottom one in, just like I did the top, get it started. Might have to move your caliper a little bit to get them started. Once you get them started, you're gonna have to go with your 3/8 Allen wrench again and tighten them down.
Just cut the voice, or his voice in.
It's gonna take some time to tighten down these Allen screws, so take the time to tighten them and do it right. So now that I have my caliper on, we need to put grease in. I recommend that you grease it. We do ours 3 times a year, beginning, middle, towards the end, boating season. I'm not going to tell you how much to put in it. If you have questions, call your dealer, check your manual, see what they say. Okay, now I'm going to put grease in. And this cap that we put in earlier will slide out as I fill it up with grease. It'll only come so far because remember that snap ring that I put in? Take it to about there. And then, last step, important step, put your cap back on. It's going to have some pressure in it. Kind of. There you go. Now, to fill your bearings, you need to take this cap that I told you to do a couple times a year, remove your cap, grab your grease gun, put it on until your thing comes out like I did before. Until the thing comes out before. Once you get it filled, then like I said, back with your cap. Put back on.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the video. And again, I want to restate, this is the way that we do it. You take from this video what you want. If you have technical questions, talk to your boat dealer, talk to the manufacturer of the trailer that you own. This is a Shorelander trailer. We have a technical number for the Shorelander people. We've talked to them and they were helpful.